This is very concerning for New York Rangers fans as we get multiple updates from multiple insiders that all the players on the team are completely disgruntled with management. We get some insight into the behind the scenes of last season, and some of the players are absolutely disgusted with the way that this team is managed. And some of these new details are going to shock Rangers fans. We're going to break it all down in this episode of Rangers Digest. But before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 74% of you who watch these videos on the regular aren't subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening with the Blue Shirts, be sure to go down below, hit that free subscribe button. And again, this is the place to be for all your daily New York Rangers content. And of course, I'm very excited. I don't want to not acknowledge it. I'm excited for all the comments down below saying, where did Darius go? I'm very excited for that. But anyway, let's get to the info of the day and the new reports, because there is some shocking new stuff that I didn't actually think was going to see the light of day, Bret, and it's pretty crazy. It is really crazy. Let's jump right into it. Peter Baugh posted this article earlier from the New York Times, and I believe it's with The Athletic as well. I could be incorrect. Correct me if I'm wrong down below in the comments. But 11 of the 22 players who appeared in the Rangers 2024 playoff run are now gone, which is actually pretty staggering if you think about it, considering, they went all the way to the conference final and now 11 of them are gone. And we know all of this, right? The Rangers were unhappy with that result. Obviously, the team has had so much turnover since then, but some of the things and some of the info that is in this article is mind-boggling, absolutely mind-boggling. So apparently the first order of business that we'll get to is that the Rangers have, and multiple players on the team have expressed resentment towards Drury about what he did at not only the start of last season, but heading back to, last offseason when he got rid of Barclay Goodrow and obviously wanted to trade Jacob Trouba and then ended up doing that. So apparently there was a players meeting. All the players got together at Artemi Panarin's house at the start of last year and were basically coming up with a plan. Again, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouths, but they were basically coming up with a plan to quit on management and the team. And I think that is completely... while I do understand them to a degree, this is still your job. You still have to show up to work and play hockey games. And if that is the case, most of the guys that are on, still on the roster that were here last year should be shipped out at this point. You need to completely change everything. That's just my opinion. One player was quoted as saying, "No one here is happy." And apparently James Dolan, the owner of the New York Rangers and the New York Knicks, had to have a pep talk with some of the players at the end of the season and talked about how it was a privilege to play in New York and play for the New York Rangers. There is way more than this that we're going to dive into in a second, but what are your initial thoughts on this? Because I was not expecting this to come out, first of all, today or at all. Like, some of this is stuff that I never thought was going to see the light of day. So what's your take on all of this?
My initial thoughts, Darius, is what the hell? Like, do your damn job, Rangers. Do your damn job, because this meeting that happened at Artemi Panarin's house, now it all makes sense, because this team, you could tell on a night-to-night basis, did not give a you-know-what. This team there was no effort. There was no want to. This is your job. You're getting paid millions of dollars. Artemi Panarin, how dare you? How dare you hold this meeting at your house when you're getting paid $11 million to go out there and play hockey? Please, come on. We're over here making videos about you guys, and we love doing this, but you're getting paid $11 million to play hockey. You guys, give me a break with this players meeting nonsense. I mean, you guys are grown men, grown adults. You can't... Chris Drury, he is the general manager of this hockey team. If he doesn't have to inform the players of every single transaction he's going to make, okay? And Artemi Panarin, please, I always defend the bread man, but look, he has been an absolute no-show, an absolute disgrace in the postseason. Maybe the Rangers would have made the Stanley Cup if Artemi Panarin could do something on the ice, if Mika Zibanejad could do something on the ice. So maybe they should have a players meeting at Artemi Panarin's house about how to score on the damn power play, about how to put the puck in the net. That's what you guys get paid to do. This hockey team has been playing east to west for the last number of years. This team has to change. We got to play more north to south style hockey like the Florida Panthers do. This recipe hasn't worked. It won't work. And I'm just really ticked off and pissed off at this article, because Chris Drury, was he completely right for doing what he did with that league-wide trade memo with Trouba and Kreider and everything like that? No. But guess what? Two wrongs don't make a right. And at the end of the day, like I said, you're getting paid to play hockey. So go out there, don't cry about it. be a man and play hockey. I mean, just inexcusable. And now this all makes sense. How this team went from President's Trophy to 13th in the Eastern Conference. What an absolute disgrace, disaster. I am really ticked off right now, Darius. I am so ticked off and fuming at this article that came out this morning.
Yeah, and I think that, to bring it, we're going to get into the specifics of that in a second too, the trade memo that went out in November, because was that a mistake? Yes, a colossal mistake on Chris Drury's part. And I don't want to make this a defense of Chris Drury video, because that's not what this is, but the players do need to be held accountable. And I've said in the past, in videos around the time that, the ship started to sink a little bit in November, I was saying, all of these guys strike me as players who want to play in New York, who want to be New York Rangers, but under their own, under the circumstances that they want it to be, right? Under their own, the way that they want it to be. And that's just not how life works. It's just not how life works in any workplace, of course. And like you said, these guys make millions of dollars and you get to show up and play hockey, go and do that. So the fact that there was a players meeting, or maybe not a meeting, but just like they all got together at Panarin's house and they came together and said, basically, let's quit on the team. I think that is absolutely ridiculous. And, that's why a lot of these guys have been shipped out. But I thought this was interesting from the article as well, that another Ranger who wanted to be, left anonymous, didn't want his name out there, said that there's some trust lost clearly, and it's hard to know where that trust was lost, but it's in the room now, and you have guys wondering who's next. But that's in every dressing room. Anybody can be traded at any moment. And I feel like maybe they're thinking this way because guys who have no movement clauses are getting traded, right? Because obviously Jacob Trouba, that whole situation. So I can understand it from that point of view. But you're still in the room. You're still in the team. You have to play, right? You have to play until you are traded. So that's just the nature of the sport. And I thought this was very interesting as well. That like I alluded to. There was a lot of conversations between, or lack of conversations we heard between Chris Drury and the players. And again, I think it's the GM's prerogative if he wants to share things with his players, right? At the end of the day, maybe he should, but it's up to the GM at the end of the day, right? And how he wants that relationship with his players to look. But like, you mentioned, there was something that went down in November where he did leak to the league and it got out that, that Jacob Trouba and Chris Kreider were on the trade block, and that affect their psyche as well. So was that a mistake? Yes. Chris Drury absolutely makes mistakes. He's not a perfect GM, right? But the fact that they all quit on the team, it's not that they quit on Chris Drury. You quit on Peter Laviolette, which is fine. I mean, if you wanted to do that, I guess at this point he's fired. But you quit on the fans, the crest, all of that. Like that, you quit on everything. And if that's what you did, you shouldn't be here anymore. They should completely wipe everything clean if that is the case, and start new. And again, like I've been saying, and I want your thoughts on this as well, but like I've been saying, like they all wanted to be New York Rangers, but under, their own circumstances, the best circumstances, like having it their way, and it just doesn't work that way. So again, lots of interesting stuff. They're going to make a lot of moves. We can kind of dive into this now, or if you want to give your thoughts very quickly on all of this that happened, because a lot of the players were feeling scared that they were going to get traded, but that's the way it is in this league, or any league.
Yeah, what a disaster. This team is as soft as pudding, Darius. This team is a disgrace. Like I said, I am really ticked off by this article because I was putting all the blame on Chris Drury. I was pissed off at Chris Drury for what he did to start this past season. And I could kind of get where the players were coming from before this article came out. We just won the President's Trophy, 2 games away from the Stanley Cup, and now you want to get rid of those core pieces. But you have to be proactive, Darius, and not reactive. You don't want to let this drag out too long. And I think that Chris Drury has seen, he's seen this play unfold for the last few years now. Like the Rangers, they want to be New York Rangers, but they want to have it their way. Well, maybe, like I said, Artemi Panarin should actually put the puck in the net when it matters. Maybe Jacob Trouba should stay out of the penalty box. Maybe Mika Zibanejad should not forget how to score on the power play. And Chris Kreider, I mean, look, Chris Kreider completely gave up. It was very obvious. Everybody says, Bret, oh, Henrik Lundqvist is in the rafters. He never won a Stanley Cup. Why can't Chris Kreider be in the rafter. Look, it's a totally different situation. I'm not even gonna break that whole thing down right now, but Chris Kreider visibly quit on this hockey team because he was soft. You got to muscle up, you got to man up, and look, no one feels sorry for you, Chris. Nobody feels sorry for you, Artemi, making $7 million, $11 million. I certainly don't feel sorry for you. So I am just really ticked off. James Dolan, that's how bad this has gotten, where James Dolan, of all people, has to come into the room and give you a pep talk. Seriously, James Dolan? That's where we've gotten. I mean, this is the trade everybody, quite frankly, because this team with this type of character will never, ever, ever even challenge the Florida Panthers. The Florida Panthers are built, they have stones, they have freaking guts. They go out there and they lay it on the line. This Rangers team is soft, and I am sick of it. I am absolutely sick of it. So I was really hard on Chris Drury, and he's not completely right in this situation.
Yep.
But come on. And Darius, you hit this on the head. They quit on the fans. The fans that pay their hard-earned money to go and watch you play on a night-to-night basis. Those games aren't cheap. The food isn't cheap. The commute isn't easy. Like, you've quit on the fans, and I can't respect that. And I want to see them gone, quite frankly. I don't care what we get back in return, but we will never win with this DNA, Darius.
Yeah, they need to change the mindset, and this furthers it, even more. This is, we kind of knew it last year. I couldn't wrap my head around the losing last year. I really couldn't. Like, you could see it happening, but I was like, this is essentially, until the Jacob Trouba trade, I was like, this is essentially the same team on paper, and losing Barclay Goodrow in the way that it happened changed the psyche of the team that much. It's just very confusing. Like, do you think the Florida Panthers, when Spencer Knight got traded for Seth Jones, yes, they're bringing in a great player, and it's a little bit of a different circumstance, but they make a trade like that and they kind of fall apart. Like, that didn't happen, right? There's a different mindset there, and I think that the Rangers are, like you said, lacking there, and they had all last season. Maybe they always have, but now it's even worse, right? And for Chris Kreider, it was visible. You could see it. He did quit, right, on the season, and maybe there was a little bit of an attitude there with some of the players where it's like, well, if I'm going to get traded tomorrow, then I'm not going to try. Well, you didn't get traded for the whole season. Now you got traded in the offseason, but you didn't. You have to keep putting your best foot forward, right? And like you said, for James Dolan to come in and give you a prep talk, I mean, that is just ridiculous. So last thing to mention before we wrap up here is Chris Drury. I thought this was interesting from Frank Saravalli that came out this morning as well. Chris Drury is in on everything, which is just an insane statement to make, by the way, because he's just, like we said, he has his hands in every single cookie jar. And I do want to say, like, Chris Drury has made a ton of mistakes. Like, that trade memo in November, that was a colossal mistake. That should have never come out, and it does change the psyche of a team. But for the rest of the team to kind of rally behind that and quit on the fan base, the crest, all of that, I think is just like absurd. You can voice your displeasure even through the media if you wanted to take a shot back at Chris Drury, but again, that would be pretty ugly. But you can do that. Other things, you can talk to him, right? And a lot of players were saying that there was no productive meetings as well. So, that is what it is. But Chris Drury just signed a contract extension. James Dolan has him here. So he's in on everything. He's trying to make some things happen. And Soucy, like we were speculating, is on the way out. And Zach Jones is available as well, which I think is interesting. He doesn't have a contract extension, so it's going to be interesting. Any final thoughts on this before we wrap up? Because this was a loaded video, but there is a lot going on with the New York Rangers.
My final thoughts, since we're running out of time here, I'll keep it short and sweet. Soucy, see you later. Zach Jones, I would definitely be more interested in keeping than Carson Soucy. I like what I've seen from Jones over the past few seasons. He fights his tail off, and that's a guy that actually plays with the type of want to and the type of will that I want to see a New York Ranger play with. So I would definitely rather trade Carson Soucy without a doubt. And my final thought is, I'll tease this for another video, but I think it's time we remove the A from Artemi Panarin. I think it's time we remove the A from Mika Zibanejad as well. All right? This is JT Miller's team. And if you don't like it, you could get the hell out. That's my final thought.
And I think that, I've been saying it on the channel for a long time. The reason they made that JT Miller trade is because, not only because of this, but because he's such a great player, but the comments that he made about coming into training camp with the Canucks. He came in ready to win a Stanley Cup. Nobody else was. He's going to come into next season the same way with that intensity. This is his team. He's probably going to be the captain. His assistant captain or alternate captain is probably going to be Vincent Trocheck, childhood friends. And if you don't like it, then you can leave. You can get traded. You can request a trade if you'd like, but it's going to be their team, and we'll see who else gets a letter on their jersey as well. There's a lot of really good candidates. Will Cooley leads by example on the ice, in my eyes, so that could be another candidate as well. But like you said, it's JT Miller's team now. They're moving in a different direction, and we have to think about some of this stuff logically. Does Chris Drury make some mistakes? Absolutely, but he just signed a contract extension. James Dolan's not going anywhere, right? These things are set in stone. The players can be moved. If you don't want to be here, you don't have to be here. They're trying to find success and a different mindset with this team. And I think that should be exciting if you're a Rangers fan. We'll see what Chris Drury does in the coming days and weeks. Let us know how you feel in the comments, because this was a loaded one. A lot of information has come out today that I didn't think was going to see the day or the light of day. But let us know how you feel in the comments. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.